Maria's alarm rang at 4:45 a.m., the same thin, buzzing sound that pulled her out of sleep every day. She shut it off quickly so it wouldn't wake the kids. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the rain tapping against the window. She sat at the small kitchen table, sorting through envelopes she already knew the contents of. Rent, utilities, a bright orange notice stamped final warning. Her stomach tightened. She had paid most of it, but not all. The late fee alone felt like punishment for being poor. After getting the kids ready and walking them to the bus stop, Maria headed to her second job, the one no one noticed. Night cleaning at a downtown office tower. Empty halls, glass walls, offices that smelled like expensive coffee and quiet power. Near midnight, her feet aching, she stopped by the stairwell to check her phone. Her landlord had been texting all week. Send proof of payment tonight or we proceed with eviction. Maria leaned against the wall, pulled the crumpled receipt from her pocket, and snapped a photo. Her screen flickered. The building's Wi-Fi lagged, freezing for a second too long. She typed quickly, her fingers numb. Here is the receipt. I paid what I could. Please give me a few more days. She hit send. Only after did she notice the name at the top of the chat. Not her landlord, Richard Hale, CEO. Her breath caught. Her chest went cold. She stared at the screen, willing it to undo what she'd just done. The photo was there. The amount. The late fee. Her name. Printed too clearly. She tried to delete it. Too late. Maria slid down the wall and sat on the floor, mop bucket beside her. She imagined the worst. HR calls, security escorts, losing the job that barely kept her afloat. Her cheeks burned with shame. She had never meant for anyone to see how close she was to losing everything. When she got home, she placed the receipt back on the table like it could explain itself. She lay awake until morning, listening to her children breathe, wondering how one tired mistake could cost her the last fragile piece of stability she had left. Maria barely slept. Every time her phone vibrated in the night, a spam alert, an app update, her heart jumped. By morning, her head ached and her hands felt hollow, like she'd already lost something important. She moved on autopilot, peanut butter sandwiches, tying shoelaces, a forced smile as her kids argued over a cracked blue cup. She waited until they were out the door before checking her phone again. Nothing. That was worse. Silence meant the message had been seen. Read. Judged. At 9:17 a.m., just as she was wiping the counter, her phone buzzed. Unknown notification. One message. The sender's name made her stomach drop. Richard Hale. She sat down slowly, afraid her knees might give out. For a moment, she didn't open it. She imagined cold corporate language. A warning. A termination notice written in polite words. Finally, she tapped the screen. Good morning, Maria. I believe this message wasn't meant for me. Her breath caught. She read it twice. But I'm glad it reached me anyway. Her fingers trembled. Why would a CEO say that? Another message appeared. I see your name on the cleaning schedule in our building. I've walked past your work more times than I can count. Maria pressed her hand to her mouth. He knew who she was. Minutes passed. Then one more message. That receipt says more than you probably intended. If you're willing, I'd like to hear your story. She stared at the screen, tears blurring the words. No accusations. No threat. Just an invitation. Still, fear lingered. People with power didn't usually reach out like this, not without consequences. She typed a response, erased it. Typed again. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. I didn't mean. Delete. Finally, she wrote the truth. I'm sorry for bothering you. I'm just trying to keep my kids housed. I didn't expect anyone to see it. The reply came faster than she expected. You're not bothering me, and no one should work for us and fear losing their home. Maria covered her face and cried, quiet, shaking sobs she'd been holding back for months. Not because her problems were solved, but because, for the first time in a long while, someone had answered her without judgment. Another message followed. Can you come in tomorrow? Not as an employee, as a person. She read it again and again. One accidental message had crossed a line she'd never been allowed to step over before. And she had no idea it was about to change everything. Maria arrived 40 minutes early. She stood across the street from the glass tower she cleaned every night, smoothing her thrift store blouse like it might suddenly look expensive. The building felt different in daylight, brighter, louder, alive with people who walked fast and never looked down. At the front desk, she gave her name. The receptionist didn't ask why a cleaner was there at 10 a.m. She just smiled and said, "He's expecting you." That alone made Maria's chest tighten. The elevator climbed silently. Each floor number felt heavier than the last. When the doors opened, sunlight flooded in. Thick carpet, art on the walls, the kind of quiet that belonged to power. Richard Hale stood when she entered. He wasn't what she expected. No sharp voice, no phone in hand, just a man in a simple suit, sleeves rolled slightly, eyes steady. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Please, sit." Maria perched on the edge of the chair, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles hurt. "I want to be clear," he said gently. "You're not in trouble." Her shoulders dropped before she could stop them. He asked about her schedule, her kids, how long she'd worked there. The questions weren't rushed. He listened without interrupting, like her answers mattered. When she spoke about the eviction notice, her voice cracked. She apologized out of habit. For taking time, for oversharing, for existing. He shook his head. "You didn't fail," he said. "You showed up. Every night. That counts." Maria stared at the floor. No one had ever said that to her. He leaned back, quiet for a moment, then stood and walked to the window. The city buzzed below them. "I review budgets all the time," he said. "But they don't show faces. Yours reminded me what those numbers hide." He returned to the desk and slid a folder toward her. Inside were documents she didn't understand at first. Rent assistance, a new position, health benefits, paid days off. Her breath hitched. "This isn't charity," he said firmly. "It's correction." Tears streamed down Maria's face as she covered her mouth. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. He smiled, just slightly. "Stay," he said. "Grow. Let your kids see what stability looks like." Maria left the building an hour later, walking in sunlight she'd only ever seen through glass. For the first time in years, she wasn't bracing for the next fall. Maria unlocked the apartment door slowly, like she was afraid the moment might vanish if she moved too fast. The familiar creak of the hinge sounded different now, not like a warning, but like a welcome. Her kids were at the table doing homework. When they looked up, they knew something was different. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't tense. Her shoulders weren't up around her ears the way they usually were. "Did something happen?" her daughter asked. Maria set her bag down and sat across from them. For a second, the words wouldn't come. She pulled the folded papers from her purse, not to show them, but to remind herself it was real. "We're not moving," she said. Finally, the pencil slipped from her son's hand. "Not even to Aunt Rose's." "Not at all," Maria said, her voice breaking into a smile. "This is still our home." They stared at her, confused, hopeful, afraid to believe. She told them everything. About the message, the meeting, the job. She skipped the fear and focused on the change. When she finished, her daughter reached for her hand. "So, you won't be gone all night anymore." Maria shook her head. "Most nights, I'll be home for dinner." That was when the tears came. Not loud ones. The quiet kind that fall because something heavy has finally been set down. That evening, Maria cooked pasta with sauce from a jar, nothing special. But they ate together without watching the clock. No counting hours. No math in her head about what bill could wait. Later, she pinned the eviction notice to the fridge, then crossed it out with a thick black marker. Not as a reminder of fear, but of survival. That weekend, they went to the park for the first time in months. Maria watched her kids run, laughing freely, and realized she was standing in the sun instead of scanning for problems. That night, after they fell asleep, she sat on the couch and checked her phone. A final message waited. "I hope today felt lighter," it read. Maria typed back. "It did. You changed our lives." The reply came a minute later. "You did that yourself. I just noticed." Maria set the phone down and looked around the small apartment. Same walls, same furniture, but it no longer felt temporary. Sometimes, a family doesn't need a miracle. Just stability, and someone willing to see them.